And now the roundtable is here. Former DNC chair Donna Brazile, Bernie Sanders' 2020 campaign manager Faiz Shakir, and the editor of the SCOTUS blog, Sarah Isgur, and in a debut here on This Week, executive editor of the Daily Signal, Rob Bluey. All right, Sarah, as a former spokesperson for the Department of Justice, I have to ask you, what is the impact when the President of the United States puts out a message like he did last night, basically slamming his Attorney General for not prosecuting his enemies?
This is bad for the Department of Justice. It's bad for the country. But I do think we should take a bigger view here. When you look at during the Obama administration, using the power of the presidency to target Tea Party groups through the IRS, during the Biden administration, using the power of the presidency to target social media companies, Mark Zuckerberg saying they were threatened if they didn't take down information on COVID origins. And now using the power of the presidency, whether through the FCC or the Department of Justice, to limit criticism. We should be talking about the power of the presidency, because frankly, there is no legislation that is going to prevent abuses of power by the president. We have to take away that power. The FCC shouldn't have this power. The IRS shouldn't have this power. And until we're willing to talk about that, this is just going to turn into a tit for tat, and it's going nowhere good.
So I want to play something that Pam Bondi said at her confirmation hearing. This is when she was asked specifically about whether or not she would refrain from acting politically in that job. Take a listen.
That will not be the case if I am Attorney General. I will not politicize that office. I will not target people simply because of their political affiliation. Justice will be administered even-handedly throughout this country.
All right, Donna, she's now going to have to test that proposition.
Absolutely. Look, she's the chief law enforcement officer of the United States of America. She should hold that position in high regards. What we're seeing now is a pressure campaign. Like we see a pressure campaign across the board in the Trump administration. Do as I say or else. And what I saw last night, I was shocked. And it looked private, but it became a public attack on the Attorney General. I want you to, go ahead and prosecute my enemies. Go ahead and find dirt on my enemies. Or else. That's what Donald Trump, that's the signal he was sending to Pam Bondi last night.
When you pull back out and you look at the politics, the wheels are coming off the Trump train a bit, and he knows it. You see this standing on the economy. People are getting angrier and angrier that he isn't looking out for them. Healthcare premiums higher, electricity bills higher, grocery prices higher. He's seeing that in the polls. So now a couple of things are happening. Distraction. So, hey, I got to get on my front foot. I'm going to go attack my opponents. And he's looking for somebody to blame. So if I'm going down, instead of being a president with honesty and credibility says, I want to look out for people, I'm going to find somebody else. I'm going to say it's John Carl's fault that things are going terribly.
So Rob, we understand, our reporting is that the leadership of the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, opposed what Trump did on Friday, which was fire the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia because he didn't find evidence to prosecute the president's enemies, Letitia James specifically, and James Comey.
John, one of the most important roles of a president is obviously picking personnel. And President Trump has been known over the course of his first term and now the second term that he wants people in those positions who are going to move swiftly and get things done. And so if the president is displeased with somebody, it's his prerogative to remove them from a position. That's all. Personnel is policy in Washington, D.C. We all know that. And so ultimately, if a cabinet secretary may disagree with the president on that, that's a battle that will obviously play out. But in this particular case, I think what you're seeing is a frustration by President Trump that things are not moving swiftly enough. Secondly,
swiftly enough on what?
Swiftly enough across the board. I think that he wants these investigations to come to a conclusion. The president said, if they're guilty, let's make sure that we pursue that. If they're not guilty, that's fine too. I mean, that was those were the president's words.
The timing is that the statute of limitations is about to run in a week, and so they either have to bring charges or they don't.
Against
and
James.
if they don't have evidence to bring to a grand jury, this is going to be incredibly embarrassing for them.
But our understanding is they spent 5 months, that office, this is one of the most important U.S. attorney's offices in the country, spent 5 months looking into this allegation of mortgage fraud and found there wasn't evidence to bring a case.
In fact, if anything, they found evidence on the opposite.
Her.
Yes, correct.
Okay, I want to move to the other part of this, which is the free speech component. An editorial in the Free Press, Barry Weiss, Free Press, about what happened with Disney, ABC suspending Jimmy Kimmel's show. Take a look at this. They write, the circumstances under which he has been suspended should alarm anyone who cares about free speech. It is now Is it now Trump administration policy to punish broadcasters for comedy that doesn't conform to its politics? That is censorship. For the MAGA crowd who might like what they're seeing from Carr, remember that Democrats will wield this power again, and when they do, they will play by new rules that Carr and the Trump administration just established. Rob, let me ask you, we saw very strong words from Ted Cruz and from Tucker Carlson, highly critical of what the FCC is doing. Where does MAGA world break down on all of this?
John, I do have sympathy for those who have concerns about free speech. I came to Washington, D.C. My first job was to defend reporters who were facing free speech challenges. And we ourselves have suffered under the Biden administration when the Biden White House revoked the credentials of the Daily Signal and 440 other reporters 2 years ago in 2023. And so I know what it's like to be on the receiving end. At the same time, I think we need to take a step back, hopefully, and judge that Brendan Carr was asked his opinion on a podcast. He gave his opinion. He did not institute any sort of regulatory action against ABC. It was Nexstar and Sinclair that decided to preempt the show, which is what prompted ABC.
Well, that's what this editorial is about, jawboning. When an official that has the power goes out and says that kind of stuff, the Supreme Court has said that can be a form of censorship.
Yeah,
Donna.
he sent a message. No question that Brendan, who in the past has spoken out in terms of free speech, he's been an advocate of speaking truth to power. And when you lose that right, when you lose that ability to hold elected leaders and others accountable, when a comic cannot make a mistake and then come back and correct his mistake, when we've reached this destination in our country where people cannot criticize official leaders, then we're losing a key guardrail of our democracy.
Yeah, I would just, to my friends on the right, with all due respect, I do think we're in a different moment. It isn't tit for tat. This isn't like something in the past. I believe, and you may disagree with me, that this is something very different. This isn't a person looking out for trying to solve for COVID or some issue that is relevant to the American public. This is a person who's looking out purely for their own self-interest, self-preservation. Me, Trump, my cronyism, go and defend my personal interest, dear Department of Justice, dear IRS, dear Fed Reserve. Whatever it is I want, you are supposed to do pure, nonstop. That's what's being governed here. This is the interest of Trump.
I actually don't disagree on that, but the mechanisms by which to do it, saying if we will take away your Section 230 protection in the Federal Communications Decency Act if you don't take down this speech that we don't like on your platform, is what the Biden administration did, add in more curse words, according to Mark Zuckerberg. Look, I think it's great that we saw so many voices from across the spectrum on the right absolutely going after Pam Bondi for her statements about hate speech. But you know what sort of struck me? Ted Cruz isn't a podcaster. I mean, he said that on a podcast. He's a U.S. senator. The actual solve for this is to do something, to actually have political accountability, which is the job of a senator. Actually do something to rein in a president.
Hey, but